What's up, everybody? This is your girl Kiki again with another video. What? Um, hey, everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment below, write a book if you want to. I don't care. I'll comment back. It's all good. Um, and definitely smash that like button because the more likes I get, then more my video gets out, gets seen to the public, and of course subscribe because you want to see more of me. Look, I didn't got my makeup on and everything for y'all, so y'all should appreciate this. I'm kidding, but anywho, what are we gonna talk about today? We're gonna talk about a new show that started on Netflix, dropped this Tuesday, called The Blood of Zeus. Now, if you like Game of Thrones, this is a show for you. Did you by chance happen to watch Rome? I know some of y'all are like, what's Rome? It was this bomb ass show on HBO that came on about like 10 years ago. It was so good. If you like Rome, you will like this show. If you like history and Greek mythology, you will like this show. If you kind of like anime, you like historical type anime, you'll like this show. This is an animated show by the same people who did Castlevania. Do not get it twisted. This is not for children, under the age of 14. It has blood, it has gore, it has adult themes, if you know what I'm saying. Has adult themes. So, so far it's not a lot of nudity. There's little frontal, side boob, nip slip, whatever. So yeah, it's not something that you want your little tiny children watching, not unless you're just a horrible parent. Just saying. But if you've watched Castlevania, I haven't. I've heard it's excellent. But it's like around the same kind of themes and the same kind of, the animation is the same, but it's the same kind of things. Not the same plot, but just, gore, blood, boobs, whatever. And so we're going to talk about it. Spoiler alert. If you have not watched it, go watch it now. Come back, look at my video and comment or whatever. But I can't talk about the show without spoiling it. I mean, I'm going to try to give a brief overview of 2 episodes. Each episode is about 30 minutes. So it's 6 episodes altogether. So it's not a long series. But it's definitely worth watching. And it's definitely worth you watching if you like me. I'm a Game of Thrones fan and I like all that kind of stuff. Witcher, Game of Thrones, So we're going to talk about the first 2 episodes. Blood of Zeus is set in ancient times, ancient Greek mythology, those times. Is a story about a bastard, about an illegitimate child by the name of Heron and his mother Electra. And they are like living in the sieves, they on Skid Row, they in the hood, like they digging up ore, they selling potatoes, they trying to scrape by, good times, whatever, like good times. They poor folk, they kind of ostracized part of the town, they kind of like the outcasts or whatever. And they've always been poor ever since Heron. Heron's like 18, 19, something like that, 17, 18, 19, he's kind of young. And there's this lady that comes to town. She is a Amazonian warrior by the name of Alexia, and she comes with this ragtag group of soldiers, and then they're demon hunters. They find demons, they find them out and kill them. And they were like, yeah, we was following some demons, and they came upon this little village, and so they're like, we're trying to find it. So they find the dude, they string him up in the middle of town. The whole village is looking like this. What are they doing? And he looks like a normal dude, and he's like, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me. And then she takes out this hot poker, and apparently demons can be reveal themselves by extreme heat. So a hot sword, a hot poker, a flame, something. She takes this hot poker, she stabs the dude in his shoulder, and he screams, and the next thing you know, his hair turns white and his eyes turn red, and he turns into what they, to the villager's surprise, he's a demon, and he's a demon. And so Alexia chops the dude's head off. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So of course, Heron and his mom see this, and then Heron and his mom, they got this old dude that helps him out, that gives him food. He's been around Heron his whole life. He's this old dude, balding dude, and he's helped giving him food, money, just different types of things. He's popped in and out of their life to help them out ever since Heron was a baby. So he asked him, he's like, what's a demon? Like, what what happened? What are demons? Who are demons? We're a demon, you know. And so he tells them a story. So they go in a flashback. Flashback, flashback. So they demo flashback. And, you know, he was like, long ago, you know, the gods of Mount Olympus, Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, them, you know, you got to kind of like know a little bit of Greek mythology to really get a deep gist of this, but not too much. You know, they tell in flashbacks that the Zeus and his brothers and sisters and other gods tried to overthrow the Titans, and the Titans ruled the heavens and the earth. The Titans were not good caretakers. They were not good stewards of the earth. The Titans just pretty much lay waste to everything. The earth was chaos. The earth was darkness. Heaven was just their playground. And apparently they, you know, treated their kids bad. Like, there's some stories that, like, the head of the Titans, Zeus's, Hera and Poseidon's father, like, tried to eat them. Like, he ate a bunch of their other brothers and sisters. I don't know. It just depends on what iteration of Greek mythology you read. Some of the stories vary, but pretty, for the most part, they all said the Titans were bad and they all deserved to die. So they have this big war. Zeus leads the charge and they kill all the Titans. And then they get down to the last Titan, which I believe is like Hyperion is the last Titan. And they kill him. They smite thee. They kill him. His blood goes into the water. And he was like, I'm going to get revenge, you know, before they struck him down. And once they kill him, his blood goes into the ocean. And all of a sudden, from his blood rises these monsters. And some of these monsters are what we know as Cyclops, Hydra, you know, snake-looking things, squid-looking things, just all. And then these monsters just lay waste to the earth. And they want to kill the Greek gods and goddesses too. And they want to bring the Titans back. So once again, Zeus picks up his sword with Hera and all the other ones, and they fight these monsters and they slay and kill them one by one. Well, they couldn't do anything with the bodies, so they took the souls from each of these monsters. They took their souls, they put them in like this goblet or jar or something, and they hid it somewhere. And then Hephaestus, which Hephaestus is the blacksmith of the gods, he creates all their weapons and chariots and special little things. He forges an automaton, which is basically like an old school version of a robot, to guard over their souls in this jar or this vase for eternity. So just in case one of them may come back and be trying to get it, then they can't resurrect them. So they take all these monsters' body and Poseidon takes a big wave and douche, they put them underneath the ocean. Well, of course, you know, hundreds of years later, through tides and stuff like that, one of the bodies actually washes up ashore. So here comes some nosy old human who's like, hey, what's that up on the shore? Let me go check it out and see what it is. And he was real nosy, and then he touched one. And even though it's dead, he touched one of these monsters' carcasses. Even though it's dead, some of the monster's soul or essence infected him and transformed him physically, mentally, and emotionally, where he looks like this demon with, you know, one glowing red eyes, and his skin's all crackled, and his hair goes long, and then he starts to thirst for revenge and power. You know, this demon has corrupted his soul. So he finds other humans who are equally greedy and nosy. So he finds a bunch of Karens and Kyles. And he's like, okay, y'all want power. And then they touch the monster, and then they all, you know, and he turns some of them into demons as well. So they go on this rampage of trying to get revenge on humanity and the gods and goddesses. So that's pretty much the overview of episode 1. It was pretty much an introduction and a flashback. On to episode 2. So episode 2, we were getting to know Heron and his mom, Electra, and seeing how bad they doing. They just doing real bad. They poor. They living on Skid Row. You know, and Heron, you know, he's young and he's angsty, and he's like, why we always got to be poor? Why do people in town don't like us? And then so the people in town is like, well, everywhere they go, there's a dark cloud, so they must be possessed by a demon and blah, blah, blah. So they get into their head that they must be demons too. So they burn Heron. He doesn't turn to a demon. So they're like, well, let's get his mother. And he tries to defend his mother, but of course there's like 4 or 5 on 1. And so they were going to grab his mother and burn her, stab her or something with the hot poker. She grabs the hot poker herself and burns her own arm. Yeah, her own arm down to the white meat, y'all. Down to the white meat. I was like, she's crying. And, you know, Heron's like, I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of this. Like, I ain't here for this, man. Like, why I gotta be this way? So she just tells him, you know, we just trying to eke out an existence, sons. We just trying to do what we gotta do. So Heron, he ends up going to sleep. He has this dream that his mom was a queen and that he was a twin. And so he wakes up the next day and he was like, I had the strangest dream, but it didn't really seem like a dream. more like a omen or some kind of premonition. He asked his mom straight out, were you a queen at one time? And she was just like, she was shooketh. She was like, well, so she goes into flashbacks. She's like, as a matter of fact, I was. And so she goes into a flashback. She was in a neighboring kingdom. She was given over through arranged marriage, what it suggests, when she was younger, over to this king. And this king was not a nice guy. He was a jerk. He was a real jerk. And he did her bad. You know, he just married her, I guess, because he wanted to have some sons. He needed to have some heirs. She was young. She was beautiful. And she married this dude and he was mean to her. And so she's out there bathing, you know, doing her thing, looking pretty, whatever. She's like, ooh, yeah, look at me. And, you know, and apparently she catches the eye of Zeus. Now, let me tell you, Zeus, if you don't know Greek mythology, Zeus is a dog. He has many demigods, which are half human, half god children. He has bastards. They're like everywhere. Because Zeus, apparently, after he fought all these wars and did all this stuff, he was living his best life. He was chilling. He got, you know, he probably was like, okay, now I can enjoy the fruits of my fighting and my labor. I'm ruling heaven. I'm ruling earth. I'm living my best life. I should be able to partake in the honeys and the women and the water and the wine and the honey and the other kind of honeys. So Zeus is known as basically all-out hoe, okay? A hoe. Okay, I mean, let's keep it real. And then Hera, his wife, sister wife. Yeah, okay, that's weird. Don't judge it. You know, things were strange back then. But she watches him like a hawk because she know how he is. She know he cheat. She give him the side eye, like she be on him like white on rice. You know, she be looking out. You know, and she kind of like trapped in a situation where, you know, she used to be the queen of heaven and she has powers. I like about this show because they don't just show the human, but they show the gods as well. So you see them interacting with each other. You see how Hera feels. You know, I always feel bad for Hera, you know, but that's another time for another video. Zeus did her wrong, you know, and then, you know, so she watches him like a hawk. So he decides to disguise himself as the king and comes to Electra looking like the king, and then he's nice and sweet and brings her flowers. But then the next day the real king will show up and he of course snatch her by the hair and be like, go on, give it up now, heifer, you know. And then the next day Zeus will disguise himself as the king. So she confused. She's like, okay, one day you sweet, one day you nice. She flinches because she's like, I don't know what dude I'm finna get. Like, are you finna smack me or you finna kiss me? And then, you know, and so eventually she started to get hip. Like, wait a minute, this is, they don't even do this. They don't even do the deed the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell whether that man is really the man he's supposed to be. Come on, ladies, come on. But so she gets a knife and then he comes to her all sweet with flowers and everything. She pulls a knife on her. She's like, okay, who are you really? She was finna stab him. She's like, look, tell me who you really are. And so then all of a sudden he changes and he glows and he has a heavenly light and you realize it is not the king, it's Zeus. And he's like, yeah, it's been me coming to you those nights where I'm tender and nice and, you know, it's been me the whole entire time. You caught my eye. I'm in love with you. And she was just like, oh my God, what should I do? You know, it's Zeus. So what woman is not like, okay, the king of all gods likes me. I mean, what you gonna do? Be like, well, no, like, you gonna be like, heck yeah. So she, you know, she kind of goes along with it. And then right as he reveals himself, you know, Hera is up in Mount Olympus like this, looking down like, and she recognizes Zeus's light, you know, the heavenly light. And she looks like, is that Zeus down there? You know, so she ready to just go off. And so Apollo, one of Zeus's sons, he rides a chariot. He has a heavenly light too. He hurries down to his father. He's like, Dad, Hera, she sees you. She sees your light. Just let me take your turn. You had to go home right now. And so Zeus disappears. And then Apollo stands there, you know, and like, I guess, and then like Hera's about to go off. She about to get her crow. She got the hand back. She ready to just blow up this king's house with the girl in it. And all of a sudden, like, Zeus is like, hey, what's going on? Like, hey, honey, what's wrong? What's the matter? What? I was with Poseidon. You know, we had some little things to take care of, you know, in the water or whatever. What's wrong? And she's like, you sure that wasn't you down there with that woman? I saw your light. He's like, no, that's me. That's Apollo. You know how Apollo do, you know. You know, Apollo, he liked the mortal women too. That wasn't me, baby. You know, I'm faithful to you, girl. I love you, girl. Come on. That wasn't me. I wasn't talking to the other girl. Shh. So he pretty much straight up lies to Hera. So Hera was like, okay, but Hera is not stupid. Oh, no, no, no. Hera is not a dumb broad. She's still like, okay, all right, oh, okay, yeah, okay, honey, yeah, I love you too. She goes behind Zeus's back and she gets these three gods who have control over dreams. And so she tells them she still has suspicions about this human. She tells them, well, this human is married to a king. Have him have an omen in the dream that the baby one that he gonna have babies and the babies are his. By the time Electra is pregnant, so they keep going back to the king and putting these dreams in his ear, like one of the baby isn't his, that he's gonna have twins, and one of the baby and his wife is stepping out on him. So Hera's smart. She's smart because she was like, if it comes out they not cheating, even if so, the king gonna know the one of the baby's not his, even if she is messing with Apollo and not Zeus. But either way, Hera don't care because she the one, she that bitch. Okay, Hera's that bitch. So finally, the day comes where Electra's gonna have the baby. She does have twins. She has first kid pops out. The kid has brown eyes like her and her husband, the king. Then there's another kid. Hold up, there's another kid. The second placenta, other kid. Oh, twins. And another one pops out looking just like the first one. And then opens his eyes. His eyes are crystal blue like Zeus. And of course, the king doesn't know it's Zeus, but he knows that she been messing around. He be like, okay, this kid ain't got your eyes, my great grandmama eyes, and knows something is up. So they're like, guard sees her, kill her. So he takes the baby that has brown eyes. He figures that one's his. But then he wants to kill the blue-eyed baby and wants to kill Electra. So all of a sudden, Zeus just swoops down and shows up, was like, not today, son. And he just obliterates the king's guards. And he shows his real form, who he really is. And Hera is like, I knew it. I knew it. She's like, she saw, when Zeus went down there and was Captain Save him. And so, and then, the king sends more guards to try to stop them. And then Zeus takes Electra and their son and leaves the other son with the king and said he'll be better off there, and disappears. And so they've been on the run ever since. And the old man, who they think the old drunk uncle, or the old uncle that's just telling stories, that was there for Hera all his life, thinking that he was just there, dating his mom or whatever. It really is Zeus in disguise. It really is his father. And he really has done his best to try to take care of them. But he still thinks Zeus is a coward and thinks that he is scared of Hera. And you can see why, because Hera got some serious power. And the reason why there's a cloud that follows them everywhere they go, that was Zeus's way of trying to protect them from Hera. Because if Hera saw Electra and the baby were still alive, she would have killed them. But before that, the Electra actually kills the king. She stabs him in the eye because he was trying to snatch. He snatched her baby up, was finna kill her baby, and she was like, "Oh, mother cub, not today." She was mama bear was on it, and so she ends up stabbing the king, kills the king. So, and then she finds out later on that her kid, the firstborn twin, was actually killed by its uncle, because people killed up people in a line of succession, and the little kid didn't have no parents there to protect him, so he was basically killed. So she felt guilty for that. So that's really the essence of the second episode. Like I said, it is a good show. It has a rich plot. And then, Hera, he has some kind of destiny, and he goes to find a sword, and he has some kind of destiny to save humanity from these monsters and demons. So I figured that he's going to hook up with Alexia, and they're going to fight together. And, like I said, it's a really good show. Sidebar, the side issues I would like to talk about. Roman and Greek influence. Most of our sciences, philosophy, religion, government is influenced by how Rome and how the Greeks did things. You can see it in everything down from in the past down to this day. The notion of patrimony and male domination was very much a Rome and Greek thing. Rome and Greek for much of society. Now, the noble women, they schemed and climbed their way up, and they planned assassinations. There was some scheming broads. But for the most part, women had a place in society, and men had a place in society. And again, the notions of patrimony, misogyny, a lot of that originated with the Greeks and Romans. I'm not saying it didn't happen in other societies and other civilizations, but because we have so much literature and so much knowledge that the Romans and the Greeks left behind, and they influenced so many different continents and country and people and races of people. Their influence is not to be sniffed at. It is worldwide. Our language is Latin based. A lot of our rich foods and things like that has to come from a Greek or a Roman palate. Rome was a world power. They're a superpower. They controlled more territory than the United States, than any country since then. I mean, they were a juggernaut. They took out the Germanic people and the ancient Britons and all those people who they called barbarians. And they thought they were, which sounds familiar because it doesn't sound a little bit. That kind of sounds like when people came over to America and thought the Native American people and indigenous people were primitive and barbarians. And yeah, that notion has stuck around since Rome. Rome thought anybody that wasn't Rome, was not Pax Romana, was beneath them. And that attitude of patriotism, nationalism, is really you can go back to other civilizations, but really Rome really defined, like, being Roman was a real thing. It wasn't just where you came from. Being Roman was a way of life. Being Roman was something that unified you and made you better than and more civilized than other nations and other countries. Even though Romans believed in different gods and goddesses and heavily persecuted the Christians and the Hebrews, they took over Jerusalem. They talk about Herod in the Bible and talk about Jesus and Pontius Pilate and all that. Rome had a heavy influence, whether people liked it or not, in Hebrew society with even the apostles. And like I said, this is not a knock on Christianity or anything. That's for another video. I'm not trying to knock Christianity, but it's just truth that the New Testament, a lot of the issues in the New Testament was influenced by Roman notions and Roman ideas because, when in Rome, they lived there. They couldn't help that. Some of these men had Roman wives, even though they're told not to be unevenly yoked with unbelievers. But they did. You can't help live what you live. And Rome influenced their language, their religion, all kinds of things. A lot of the notions of male domination and patrimony, that has a deep seated in Roman and Greek society. Not saying that there weren't nations ruled by men, but the dynamic between men and women was very different in a lot of civilization. In Egypt, it was a different thing. In a lot of other nations, it was a different. I mean, women have always been seen as the lesser and the weaker sex, just because of the fact that we are not as strong as men. We can't fight as men. But on the flip side of that, history belongs to the winner. Like, how much of truly feminine history has been buried? I read a book called Warrior Women, which talks about all over the world, Amazons. People know about Amazons because of Wonder Woman and stuff like that. But, there's different civilizations that had whole groups. In Africa, there are whole tribes of women that live by themselves, that rule. They talk about you look up the Rain Queens, and they've ruled for decades and centuries. And there were whole tribes in Africa. There's just nothing but women. Yeah, they go cavort with the men when they want, some good loving, and when they want to procreate. But then they go back and they live amongst themselves and they raise the female children and they give the male children over to the men. That was a real thing that happened. It wasn't just something for comic books. That was a real notion. That Amazon's got the reputation of giving away boy children. They did. And then there were graves that were found over in different countries of women buried with full military regalia, buried with swords and weapons and shields and all kinds of things. And I just wonder, like, because of that history, Romans wouldn't let women join the army and all that. Women couldn't fight. And then they would see these dramatic tribes and these Britons and these Gauls, and they just thought they were the worst thing ever. There were those writings by Roman generals are like, their women even fight. They let their women pick up swords. I think that was more of a widespread thing than history really tells us. Again, I think a lot of history was stamped out, burned, changed when Christianity came. I'm sure historians found things about women warriors and they're like, oh no, we can't have this. And so God knows what they destroyed. The same thing about Black history. There's a lot of things about our history that in America that hasn't been recorded or put down, that people overlooked and didn't care to give, black folks credit. And, God knows the things that we have missed out through history, either due to religious reasons, misogyny, racism, ingrained biases that people just didn't want to get the women all stirred up. We can't get the women stirred up. Even though it's historically speaking, you know, I said it doesn't make much sense. The things that people see in movies and TV shows, people think that shit is real. That is fake and it's false. Just like the way that they show, you got to think logically. If you're a nation and you're a village, and mostly all the men are going off to war, and you're just the widows, the old men, the children, and the women are left. Who is going to protect that village? What nation in their right mind is going to leave a village full of women and old people and children just to stand there and be undefended? I mean, some places, okay, that might happen, but if you dealing with invading forces, I honestly believe somebody has to fight. Like, it just makes logical sense that women would pick up weapons and learn how to fight. I can't see any woman having children and being terrified that somebody's going to sweep through and make you a slave and enslave your children, kill your sons, and you just like, la la la, I'm a dainty woman, I'm not going to fight. I think some of these women picked up weapons and they fought. They fought like hell. I'd fight like hell for my kids. So I can't imagine that any woman would sit there just on some misguided notion that, oh, the men are gone, so we're just really, really vulnerable. Like, no, I'm like, I think that, I don't know if the true history will ever come out in this world about certain things that women did and they did fight. And maybe the women were fierce. Maybe women, when they became fighters, they didn't want to go back to a normal life. Maybe that was the reason, like, we can't let this get out because these chicks, now they want to start an army. Now they want to be a part of the army. Now they think they better than men. Now the men try to raise a hand to them and they like, hold up, homie. I mean, maybe that's what happened. And then they were like, well, we can't have all the women not sitting at home taking care of kids. Like, we can't have that kind of uprising. So let's just bury it, just pretend, that this didn't exist. La la la, nothing to see here. So that's just a little food for thought. But I think about poor Hera and how she had to deal with Zeus and how there's some instances where she have probably stepped out and cheated. It was innuendos, but really it just shows Zeus he was everywhere just doing the most. And I just didn't understand, like, okay, well, Hera she had to be the dutiful wife. I'm like, that's such a Roman notion. That's such Rome, like, oh, you had to be the dutiful wife or the husband. Even the women cheated back then. They cheated too. The women was screwing everybody and everything. But, they don't tell that story. It's just, the Roman men and the soldiers, the women did it too, but just nobody was interested in recording that type of history. So, when I watch this show, I kind of watch it with the slant of like, okay, I mean, it is Roman mythology, but then again, it's a history lesson of a snapshot of a time and a place, long time ago, and really the origins of a lot of the attitudes and the things that you see today. And people talk about like British people and the prim and properness. A lot of that came from Christianity, but a lot of that came when Romans took over. The British, they worship gods and goddesses too. They were shamans. They had medicine women and shamans and people who spoke to the dead and spoke to the gods. They had all of that. All of that was stamped out with the Romans taking over and with Christianity. All of that was lost. And then when we get into like, I'm going off the deep end, but we're getting into like the Salem witch trials and the notion of being one with the earth and witchcraft. That is as old as time. That is older than Christianity. It's older than Rome. It is old as time. And a lot of Caucasian people have tapped into that and gotten back to their roots and left and feel some type of way about Christianity. But that's the time for another thought. But I'm gonna come out with the next 2 episodes. There's 6 episodes in all. So like, share, subscribe, watch my other videos, comment, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.